My name is Flora Martin. I'm 30 years old, and this is the story of how I learned that love can sound like devotion right up until it sounds like silence. I used to think that being someone's rock was the highest compliment you could get. Solid, steady, reliable. The truth, rocks don't move. And when you stop moving for too long, people start looking for something that does. 5 years ago, I met Jonathan at a mutual friend's barbecue in the suburbs outside our mid-sized city. I was a junior graphic designer at the time, ambitious but practical, saving every extra dollar for my dream of opening a small design studio. Jonathan worked in marketing, charismatic, sharp, the kind of man who could walk into a room full of strangers and walk out with everyone's attention. He was the spark. I was the quiet match that kept the flame steady. From that first night, we fell into an easy rhythm, late night drives, rooftop talks about dreams that felt just close enough to touch. We shared playlists, inside jokes, and long silences that somehow felt safe. 2 years into the relationship, Jonathan's company went through a massive layoff. I remember coming home one evening to find him sitting at the kitchen table, staring blankly at an unopened email on his laptop. He looked up at me and just said, "It's over." I didn't think twice. "Then we'll figure it out," I told him. "I've got us." And I meant it. I took over rent on our apartment, cooked every meal, encouraged him to take his time finding something that felt right. When my own company offered me a promotion that required relocating to another city, I turned it down because he wasn't ready to move yet. He hugged me that night, whispered, "You're my anchor." At the time, it sounded beautiful. But now looking back, I realize anchors don't just hold you steady, they also keep you from sailing anywhere new. Those were the good days. We'd make pancakes on Sundays, dance in the kitchen to songs only we liked, and talk about how we'd build our future together. I believed it with everything I had. But somewhere in the quiet of that belief, something subtle started to shift. Jonathan began to look past me. During conversations, his attention pulled toward some invisible horizon. The same man who used to call every small win our victory began calling them his again. When he finally landed a new job, a marketing strategist position at a trendy creative agency downtown, I thought our lives were about to bloom again. And for a while it felt that way. He came home excited, full of new ideas, new energy. I'd ask about his day, and he'd light up talking about brainstorming sessions, big clients, his amazing new team. There was one name that started popping up a little too often, Maya. Maya came up with this wild campaign idea today, you'd love it. Maya thinks I should pitch that client directly. Maya says I've got the kind of leadership energy the company needs. At first, I didn't think much of it. I wanted to be supportive, not suspicious. But the first time he angled his phone away when a message came through and said, "It's just work stuff, something inside me twisted," I told myself it was fine. He deserved this joy after everything. I even started staying up later, just to have dinner ready when he came home. Half the time, the food went cold. The distance between us wasn't loud. It was quiet, polite, like the sound of a door slowly closing while you're too tired to stop it. One night, as I sat on the couch waiting for him to get home, I thought about that word again, anchor. I'd stopped moving long ago, hoping he'd notice the weight I was carrying for both of us. But maybe he already had, and maybe that's why he started drifting. I didn't know it yet, but the real test of love wasn't going to be how much I could hold on. It would be how much I could let go. Jonathan's new job turned him into someone I barely recognized. He used to text me midday just to say, "Miss your face." Now, hours would pass without a word. When I'd call to check in, his tone was brisk, distracted. "Sorry, babe, can we talk later? I'm swamped." At first, I believed him. The agency he worked for had a reputation for being fast-paced and cutthroat, so I told myself he was just adapting. I didn't want to be that partner, the one who doubts the one who nags, so I waited. But the waiting started to hurt. He'd come home past 10, smelling faintly of whiskey and perfume that wasn't mine. I'd ask networking again, and he'd grin like it was obvious. "Yeah, you know how this industry is. You've got to build connections." The way he said it, "you have to build connections," made it sound like he was already living in a world I wasn't part of. One night, while folding laundry, his phone buzzed on the table. Just one message, but it burned into me before I could stop my eyes from catching it. "Maya, missed you at the bar tonight." My heart sank, but I stayed silent. I told myself maybe it was harmless. Maybe she was just playful. But a small, sharp voice in my head whispered, "Then why hide it?" When he came out of the shower, I asked lightly, "Who's Maya, by the way? You mention her a lot." He froze for half a second, then laughed. "A coworker. Don't start getting weird about it." "I'm not weird," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "Just curious." He sighed, annoyed. Flora, not everyone clocks out at 5 like you do. Some of us have demanding jobs. That one sentence hit harder than I expected. He didn't just dismiss the question, he dismissed me. After that, I stopped asking. I told myself it wasn't worth fighting over. I focused on work, tried to fill the silence with productivity, even joined an online design class. But at night, when the apartment felt too big and his side of the bed stayed cold until midnight, my thoughts kept circling back to her. Maya. The name tasted bitter even when I said it in my head. Sometimes he'd stumble in late and collapse on the couch, half drunk, scrolling through his phone. I'd sit beside him and ask softly, "Want to talk?" He'd mumble, "Not now. I'm exhausted." Then his screen would light up again, always faced away from me. It wasn't just the messages. It was the way he started dressing differently. How he styled his hair, like someone had suggested it, how his tone changed when he spoke about the future. He'd stop saying we. I tried to adapt. Cooked his favorite meals, planned little date nights, but he canceled most of them too busy, too tired, too something. One Friday night, after another cancellation, I stood by the window watching the city lights blur. The rain traced lines down the glass, soft and endless. That's when it hit me. I was living with someone who didn't see me anymore. A part of me still clung to hope. Maybe it was just a rough patch. Maybe things would level out once he adjusted to his new routine. But deep down, I could feel it. Something fundamental had changed. The next morning, I woke up to find him sitting at the dining table typing furiously on his laptop. I smiled, trying to sound casual. "Big project." He didn't look up. "Yeah, just brainstorming with Maya." There it was again. Her name. Effortless, natural, like she belonged in every sentence now. I stared at him for a long moment. The same man who once promised me the world was now giving his laughter, his energy, his late-night thoughts to someone else. That morning, I didn't argue. I just said quietly, "Don't forget to eat breakfast before you go." He nodded without glancing up. I went back to our bedroom, closed the door, and let myself cry. For everything I was still holding on to, and for the version of us that no longer existed. But the worst was yet to come. Because soon Jonathan wouldn't just drift away. He'd look me in the eye and ask me to stand aside while he decided if I was still worth choosing. It happened on a Friday night, the kind of night I used to wait for all week. I'd ordered his favorite takeout from that little Thai place we both loved, hoping maybe the comfort of routine could pull us back together. The apartment smelled like lemongrass and rain when he came in. His hair was damp, his shirt slightly wrinkled, and he looked surprised to see candles flickering on the table. "Oh, you did all this?" he asked. "I thought we could have dinner," I said softly. "It's been a while." He hesitated. Then that distant look crossed his face again, the one I'd been pretending not to notice for weeks. He set his phone down face down on the counter. "Flora, we need to talk." The words made the air heavy. I sat down, heartbeat in my throat. "Okay, what's going on?" He paced for a moment, rubbing the back of his neck. When he finally looked up, his eyes weren't cruel, just detached, like he'd already rehearsed what came next. "Flora, I've been feeling torn lately." I didn't speak. He continued, "Maya and we've gotten close. It's not physical, not yet. But emotionally, she gets me in ways you don't anymore." Every word landed like a slow, deliberate punch. He went on. "My life feels stagnant. You're steady, dependable, and that used to make me feel safe. But now I need to figure out what I really want. I need time." My voice was barely a whisper. "Time for what?" He sighed as if I were the unreasonable one. "To choose. Between you and her." For a moment, I thought I'd misheard him. "You want time to choose between your girlfriend and your coworker?" Jonathan frowned. "It's not that simple. I don't want to hurt you, Flora, but it wouldn't be fair to you if I just stayed without being sure. If you loved me, you'd wait. You'd give me the space to sort this out." There it was, the line that ended us. He said it calmly, confidently, like it was the most logical request in the world. As if my loyalty was a given, something he could bank on while he explored his options. For a long moment, I couldn't breathe. The candles flickered, casting shadows across the untouched food between us. "If I loved you, I'd wait," I repeated quietly. He nodded, relieved that I was still speaking. "Exactly. Just until I can figure things out. I just need to know if what I feel for her is real or not." I laughed, but it wasn't humor, it was disbelief. "You're asking me to stand still while you fall in love with someone else?" "Don't make it sound ugly," he snapped. "I'm being honest. Most people would just cheat. I'm trying to do this the right way." "The right way," I whispered. "You've been texting her for months, hiding your phone, shutting me out, and now you want me to applaud your honesty?" He rolled his eyes, frustration bleeding through. "You're overreacting. Maya challenges me. You just support me." That's nice, but it's not enough anymore. I need more fire. My throat tightened, but I stayed quiet. He waited for me to plead to promise patience. When I didn't, he crossed his arms defensively. Look, this isn't easy for me either, but if you push me away, that's on you. And in that moment, something inside me, the part that had always softened for him, went still. I stood up, walked to the window, and stared out at the streetlights shimmering through the rain. You know, I said slowly, you once told me I was your anchor. He smiled faintly as if remembering something sweet. Yeah. I turned to face him. Anchors don't wait for the tide to make up its mind, Jonathan. They hold until the storm passes and then they let go. He blinked, confused. What does that mean? It means, I said, my voice steady, for the first time all night, you already made your choice. You just didn't have the courage to admit it. That night I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I just watched as he gathered his things and left, probably straight into the storm he thought looked brighter than me. When the door closed, I sat on the floor beside the cold takeout, my hands shaking, but my heart strangely calm. Because somewhere between, if you loved me, you'd wait, and I need to choose, I'd realized something I should have known all along. I wasn't an option. I was the lesson he was about to lose. I didn't sleep that night. The apartment felt too quiet, the air thick with the echo of his words. If you loved me, you'd wait. Wait. For what? For him to measure my worth against someone else's. For him to decide if the love I'd already proven was convenient enough to keep. By sunrise, something inside me had shifted. It wasn't anger, it was clarity. When Jonathan stumbled into the kitchen the next morning, the smell of coffee filled the silence. His hair was messy, his tone casual, as if last night had been a minor argument we'd simply moved past. He poured himself a mug and glanced at me. So, about what I said, he started carefully. You'll give me time, right? Just a few weeks, maybe. I don't want to rush into a mistake. I stared at the rising steam between us. You already have. He frowned. Flora, don't do this. I was being honest with you. Most people wouldn't even give you the truth. Honesty, I said quietly, isn't kindness when it comes at someone else's expense. He tried to smile, the same soft smile that used to melt me. Come on, don't make a big deal out of it. You're emotional right now. No, I replied. You are. You're emotional for someone else, and you want me to sit still while you sort it out. For the first time, he looked unsettled. His voice lost that practiced calm. I just need space. I thought you'd understand. I do, I said, standing up. That's why I'm giving it to you. A lot of it. His brows furrowed. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm not waiting, I said, sliding my keys off the hook. You wanted space, Jonathan. You'll have all the space you need. He blinked. Wait, you're leaving? Seriously? Yes, I said simply. You get to figure yourself out. I get to remember who I was before I forgot myself loving you. I walked past him, and for the first time in months, he didn't follow. By noon, my suitcase was half full. I didn't take everything, just what I'd bought myself, the things that weren't tied to us. Clothes, laptop, camera, sketchbook. The rest could rot in that apartment. I called Hannah, my best friend since college. She didn't even ask for details. She just said, come over. I'll make tea. When I arrived at her place that evening, my eyes were swollen but dry. Hannah hugged me for a long time, then said softly, You look calm. I nodded. Because it's over. And this time, I'm the one who ended it. Over the next few days, I tied up loose ends, canceled joint subscriptions, updated my address, forwarded my mail. I didn't tell him where I was staying. Then came the call from Rachel, his sister. Flora, she said sharply. I just heard from Jonathan. You left him without even talking it through. I did talk, I said. He just didn't listen. He's a mess, she snapped. He's not eating, not sleeping. You can't just abandon someone because they're confused. I bit back a bitter laugh. Funny. He didn't think it was abandonment when he emotionally cheated on me. Cheated, she scoffed. You're overreacting. They didn't even... Rachel, I interrupted gently. You don't have to defend him. He already did that for himself. And then I hung up. That night alone in Hannah's guest room, I sat by the window, watching headlights smear across wet pavement. The silence wasn't peaceful yet. It was heavy, raw, but it was mine. I thought of the promotion I turned down for him, the nights I stayed awake worrying about his job, the way I shrank myself to keep him comfortable. For what? So he could call it too predictable. I whispered into the dark, not out of anger, but release. Never again. 2 days later, I received a text from Jonathan. You're being childish. We could have worked this out if you'd just waited. I stared at it for a moment, then deleted the thread without replying. And as the screen went black, So did the last flicker of whatever tie he thought still existed between us. He wanted time. I gave him forever without me. Starting over wasn't glamorous. It was slow, messy, and full of moments where silence felt louder than comfort. I rented a small studio apartment on the edge of the city, peeling white paint, one flickering bulb, and a window that overlooked nothing but a parking lot. But it was mine. For the first time in years, everything in that space belonged only to me. The dishes, the quiet, the freedom. The first few mornings, I woke up expecting to hear Jonathan moving around in the kitchen. Instead, I heard the soft hum of the fridge and my own breathing. It was disorienting. And then little by little, it was peaceful. I started working remotely for a design agency. The hours were flexible, which gave me time. Time I didn't know what to do with at first. So I filled it with things Jonathan once called a waste of time. I joined a local climbing gym. I'd always wanted to, but he used to laugh it off. You climb. You'd quit after 5 minutes. The first time I reached the top of a wall, fingers trembling, heart pounding, I laughed out loud. Not because it was easy, but because it was me doing something without anyone's permission. I bought a cheap secondhand camera and started photographing the city at dawn. Quiet streets, foggy parks, little moments no one else noticed. The photos weren't perfect, but they felt alive. And then there was therapy. Dr. Martin was calm, analytical, and had this unnerving way of making me answer my own questions. During our first session, he asked, "What do you want?" I blinked, unsure. "Peace, I guess." He smiled. "That's not a goal, that's a condition. What do you want for yourself?" I didn't have an answer. It scared me how much of my life had been shaped around someone else's direction. In later sessions, we talked about endurance, how I mistook it for love. He said, "You can't build a home out of sacrifice. Eventually you'll run out of bricks." Those words stuck. I stopped measuring my worth by how much I could endure. I started measuring it by how much joy I could create. Months passed quietly. The ache of Jonathan's betrayal faded into something dull, not gone, but manageable. Some days I'd catch a smell, a song, a street corner, and feel that sting again. But it didn't own me anymore. And somewhere between the gym and the camera, I met Benjamin. He was standing near the climbing wall one evening, waiting for his turn, when I slipped and nearly lost my grip. He reached up instinctively, steadying the rope for me. "Careful," he said, grinning. "Walls don't care about your heartbreak." I laughed an actual laugh, not the forced one I'd used for months. Good thing I'm done letting heartbreak decide what I do. We started talking after that. Not every day, not intensely, just slow, real. He didn't try to fill my silence. He respected it. There was no rush, no pretending. Just two people who'd both known disappointment and were quietly learning to trust again. Sometimes when I walked home at dusk, I'd catch my reflection in store windows, not broken, not hardened, just different, stronger. I'd think about the version of me who begged for scraps of attention, who kept waiting for a man to choose her, and I'd whisper under my breath, she deserved better. And the best part, I was finally becoming the person who could give her that. Then one evening, as I sat editing photos by the window, my phone buzzed. The name on the screen froze me. "Jonathan." The message was short. "Can we talk? I made a huge mistake." I stared at it for a long time, not because I was tempted, but because for the first time his words didn't carry any power. I set the phone face down and went back to editing. The photo on my screen was of the sunrise light breaking through fog. It felt like the perfect metaphor for where I was now. The past was behind me, and for once I wasn't looking back. I didn't reply to Jonathan's message, not out of spite, but because there was nothing left to say. Some doors don't need slamming. They just close quietly when you stop holding them open. For a while, the silence held. Then, out of nowhere, my phone lit up again, this time from Lila, one of our old mutual friends. "You won't believe this, Flora. You remember Maya, Jonathan's coworker, hard to forget?" "Yeah." Turns out she was seeing her ex the whole time. She left Jonathan. It's a mess. I didn't reply right away. My chest tightened, not from glee, but from something more complicated, a strange mix of justice and sadness. Lila kept typing. Apparently HR found out about them. Things got ugly. Jonathan lost his job too. I stared at the message, watching the dots appear and vanish the way people do when they're trying to soften gossip into sympathy. He's been posting all these vague quotes online, stuff like, "Loyalty is rare," and "Never trust the ones who smile." I almost smiled at the irony. The man who told me I was too steady was now drowning in the chaos he once craved. That night I went for a walk through the city. The air smelled of rain and neon lights blurred in puddles on the pavement. I thought about Jonathan, how sure he'd been that excitement was worth more than stability. He'd called my life predictable, but now predictability looked a lot like peace. Over the next few weeks, little fragments of his downfall reached me through mutual friends, whether I asked or not. Maya had moved on quickly, some coworker from another firm. Jonathan had burned bridges at work. Bad-mouthed people lost his references. He'd gone from confident to bitter, from admired to avoided. I didn't take joy in it, but I also didn't feel guilty for walking away before the collapse. In therapy, I told Dr. Martin about the updates. He asked, "And how do you feel hearing that I don't?" I said after a pause. I used to imagine justice would feel like satisfaction, but now it just feels done. He nodded. Closure rarely feels cinematic. It just feels quiet. Weeks later, another message from Jonathan arrived. "Flora, I really messed up. I was stupid. Maya used me. You were the one who actually cared." I read it twice, the words heavy with nostalgia and regret, but not remorse. It wasn't me he missed. It was the stability I'd given him. I didn't respond. The message marked read a silent punctuation he couldn't argue with. Then came another. "Please, can we talk just once?" Then another. "You're seriously not going to forgive me? After everything we had?" Then finally, "Wow, guess I was right. You really never cared." There it was again, the same manipulation disguised as self-pity. The same old story, if I didn't bend to his needs, I must be cold, unfeeling, cruel. But I didn't block him yet. I wanted him to see what indifference looked like. A few days later, Lila called. "I ran into Jonathan at a cafe," she said. "He looks rough, like he hasn't slept in weeks." I didn't ask for details, but she gave them anyway. The messy hair, the bitterness in his voice. How he complained that no one stuck around anymore. "He said you ghosted him," she added. "I didn't ghost him," I replied calmly. "I just stopped being his safety net." Lila sighed. "He's lost everything, Flora. His job, his reputation. Maya humiliated him publicly. People at work said she called him a placeholder." That word hit me harder than I expected. Placeholder. That was what I'd been to him too, only I didn't realize it until too late. I looked out the window at the city alive and bright and indifferent. Then maybe I said quietly, he finally understands how it feels. "Mom." The next day I blocked his number, not out of anger, out of mercy for both of us. And as the silence returned, I realized something important. Karma doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just whispers, "Now do you see?" I went to bed that night without the weight of waiting, without checking my phone, without wondering if he was thinking about me. Because I knew he was, and for the first time I didn't care. Silence didn't last forever. It never does. 3 months after I blocked Jonathan, the ghosts started knocking again, just from different doors. The first came through email. The subject line read, "Please, just hear me out." I shouldn't have opened it, but curiosity is a powerful enemy. "Flora, I know you hate me. I deserve that. But Maya was a mistake. She played me, and I see now what I lost. You were the only one who believed in me. I miss you. I just want to talk." There it was again. I miss you. As if I were something he could just retrieve from the lost and found. I closed it, deleted it. A week later came another, then another, each one shifting in tone, first regretful, then pitiful, then defensive. "You can't just erase people like this. You were supposed to understand me. You think you're better now, after everything I gave you." I gave him nothing. I gave him everything. But now his words didn't land anymore. They just bounced off the quiet peace I'd built. Then came Rachel, his sister. I should have known she wouldn't stay silent for long. One afternoon, as I was editing photos, my phone buzzed. Her name flashed on the screen. I almost ignored it. Then I thought, why not let the past show me its face one more time? "Flora," she said, skipping "Hello, Jonathan's" in a really bad place. "He's not himself. You just left him to fall apart, didn't you?" I sighed, leaning back in my chair. "Rachel, he asked me to wait while he decided if he loved me. I didn't abandon him. I just stopped auditioning." "God, you sound so heartless," she snapped. "You know he's depressed, right? He barely eats." I swallowed the bitterness that rose in my throat. "You don't get to guilt me into saving him. He had his chance." "You women and your ego," she muttered, her voice dripping with disdain. That line made me laugh, a small, sharp sound. Funny. He said the same thing right before he lost everything. I hung up before she could answer, and I blocked her too. After that, the messages got desperate. Jonathan tried from new numbers, each one stranger than the last. One voicemail came at 2:14 a.m., his voice thick somewhere between tears and whiskey. "Flora, it's me. I know I hurt you, but I chose you now. Okay, I don't even talk to Maya anymore. I made mistakes, but doesn't everyone? You said you loved me once. If you ever meant it, please answer. That final line made my stomach turn the same emotional blackmail he'd used before, just dressed in sorrow instead of arrogance. Dr. Martin once told me, some people don't want closure, they want access. I finally understood what he meant. Then Lila called. So Jonathan showed up at my office. She said quietly, "What?" He looked terrible. Said he just wanted to bump into you accidentally at my birthday next week. I told him not to, but I didn't let her finish. He'll come, I said flatly. That night I sat on my bed scrolling through old photos. Not of him, of me. Smiling at my new place, hanging from the climbing rope, holding my camera at sunrise. Proof of a life rebuilt. The thought of seeing him again didn't scare me. It just felt inevitable. Maybe closure was coming, not the kind you find in silence, but the kind that looks you in the eye one last time. So I decided to go to Lila's party, not to prove anything, just to end what was already over. And if Jonathan really showed up, he'd see for himself that the woman who once waited for him had learned how to walk away without looking back. Lila's birthday party was held on a rooftop downtown, the kind of place that looked like a Pinterest dream. Warm string lights, soft jazz, the smell of champagne and city air tangled together. I almost didn't go. Crowds weren't really my thing anymore, but something in me wanted to close this chapter properly, not just let it fade. I arrived a little after 8 wearing a simple black dress. Nothing dramatic, just enough to remind myself how far I'd come. Benjamin came with me, calm, kind, grounding. He didn't know all the details about Jonathan, just that it was a long story I was finally done telling. The night felt light. We laughed, danced a little, clinked glasses with strangers. For a moment, I forgot about everything that had led me here, until I saw him. Jonathan. He stood near the bar, half hidden behind a group of people. Same eyes, same posture, but smaller somehow. His confidence had withered, replaced by something tight and nervous. His suit was wrinkled, his smile uncertain. He scanned the crowd, and then inevitably his gaze found me. The look on his face said it all. Shock, nostalgia, and that flicker of hope I'd seen too many times before. He froze, drink in hand, until his expression softened into something pleading. And then slowly he started walking toward me. Benjamin noticed first. "You okay?" he murmured. I smiled faintly. "Yeah, just a ghost from another life." When Jonathan reached us, he hesitated, forcing a shaky grin. "Flora. Hey, you look healthy." I finished for him. "Thanks." He blinked, thrown off. "Can we talk just for a minute?" Benjamin looked at me, waiting for a cue. I nodded gently. "It's fine. I'll be right back." We stepped aside near the railing where the city glittered below us like 1,000 unspoken truths. He shoved his hands into his pockets, trying for casual. "I've been trying to reach you. You didn't answer any of my messages." "I did," I said calmly, with silence. He exhaled sharply. "Look, I know I messed up. Maya, she wasn't who I thought she was. Everything fell apart after you left." "I know," I said. "People talk." He flinched. "So you heard." "Great. Then you know I've been through hell. I lost my job, my friends, and whose fault is that?" He hesitated, then forced a laugh that didn't reach his eyes. "You always were good at turning things around on me." I stared at him for a moment. "No, Jonathan, you turned them around yourself." He rubbed the back of his neck, voice trembling. I realized too late that you were the one. I miss you. I miss us. Please, Flora, we can start over." Something inside me softened for half a second. Not for him, but for the memory of who I'd been when I still believed him. But the moment passed like smoke. "Jonathan," I said, my voice steady, "you don't miss me. You miss the version of yourself that I kept holding together." His expression cracked. "You don't mean that." "I do." He tried again, desperate now. "But I chose you. Isn't that what you wanted?" I ended things with Maya. I almost smiled. "You're months too late. I stopped waiting for you the night you asked me to." His jaw tightened. "So that's it. You're done. Just like that." "Yes," I said simply. "Because love isn't supposed to be a waiting room, Jonathan." And I finally walked out. His face twisted a mixture of anger, regret, and disbelief. "You'll regret this, you know. No one else will ever care about you like I did." I tilted my head, meeting his eyes. "You're right. No one else will ever make me feel that small again." For a moment, he looked like he might say something else, but instead he turned, muttered something under his breath, and disappeared into the crowd. I stood there for a moment, breathing in the cool night air. The city lights below shimmered like they were applauding quietly. Benjamin walked over, slipping his hand gently into mine. Everything okay? I nodded, smiling softly. Better than okay. It's finally over. We stood there under the string lights, the music fading into the hum of laughter and conversation. And for the first time, the silence between me and someone felt like peace, not the kind that hides pain, but the kind that grows after you've healed from it. As I looked out at the skyline, I whispered one final thought, mostly to myself. Sometimes closure isn't a door slamming shut. It's realizing you don't need one anymore. Then I smiled, leaned into Benjamin's shoulder, and let the night carry me forward, away from the ghosts, away from the waiting, and into a life that was finally mine.